Namaste. How would you read or how would you analyze the tone, the tenor, the words used by Xi Jinping in that statement? Well, Xi Jinping is speaking. Let's listen into this again. We will try and play out this is just a replay of the earlier conversation or the statement that was read out ahead of the bilaterals getting underway, that was read by Xi Jinping, but this is in Mandarin. So we try and play out the audio and video with the translation audio there in English. Robinder Sachdev with us, JK Tripathi, former Ambassador Tripathi is also with us. Namaste. Robinder ji, how would you read or what Xi Jinping had to say? Was it a conciliatory tone? Or should we read beyond the words or in between the lines?
Thank you very much. I could not exactly hear or see, but the sense would be that I think, see, right now, none of these parties is going to give way to the other. Neither China nor the United States, right? Whatever their objectives are, they're very clear about it for both of them, and none of them is going to back off. But yes, the meeting, the objective or the outcome of the meeting, I think from perhaps both of their objectives is to kind of set a bottom line. Okay, that, okay, we will be in competition. They both realize, America and China. And there will be, areas of friction. But is there a bottom line that can be established so that the bottom does not fall out of the relationship, right? Or let's say the bottom of the relationship doesn't fall, doesn't just vamoose away. So that would be the key. And for America, the game is completely technology denial to China. And China is also very well aware of that, because the race is in the next 10 to 15 years, whose technologies and, more important, what technology standards will be adopted in as many countries as possible. Now, America has clearly decided that China should not be able to achieve technology leadership or, race past the U.S. in any of the future or present upcoming technologies. So that's the big picture, I think, around which both of them are looking at. But then you see also there's the issue of bilateral trade. Now, America's trade, by the way, talking of decoupling and all, but in the last 1 year has actually grown with China.
Yeah.
Right. Now, how does America, and if you remember, there was a Trump-Xi Jinping deal under which China, for about $300 or $200 billion, China had promised to buy more agricultural goods and other things and some other things to, reduce that deficit.
Correct.
So that trade deficit would also be very much a part of the discussion. But as far as the tone and tenor, I think both people are kind of, gauging each other out. Right. And I will actually not be surprised. If you remember, Biden once said that, I think he said this, that I looked Putin in the eye and said to him that he's a killer, right? Or he assumed. So I will not be surprised that after this meeting, one of these days, Biden says similarly with respect to Xi Jinping.
Now, will he really ever say that? Because there are many people who are making allegations against Joe Biden and his family that they have huge interests with China, so they cannot spoil relationships beyond a certain level. But there is another important, interesting angle. Abhishek Jha is with us. Abhishek, just stay on. I'll go across to Ambassador Tripathi and then come across to you. Ambassador Tripathi, are we looking at perhaps a discourse going forward where the political aspect or geopolitical aspect is kept separate from trade? So nations may be at war with each other, but they will still trade. Nations may look at each other as their principal adversary, but they will still trade.
Well, yes, this can be, but the big question is how far it can go. Because nowadays, geopolitical interests or pure diplomatic interests are combined, attached with the trade interests. So you cannot keep them completely separate because that cannot work. So I think what will it do or what will be done is in this dialogue, perhaps the tone of both the leaders is a little conciliatory because both are tired and both are almost exhausted because of resources. China has been cornered on many fronts. U.S. is losing its hegemony. U.S. is suffering from sort of a beginning of the recession. So I think neither of the parties would like to. And same is with China. I mean, despite Xi Jinping having been returned to power, China's economic condition, China's food production, China's dwindling influence in the world, all these things will certainly play a big role, and that is why both will have some conciliatory term. Okay, verbal diatribe will go on, but nothing concrete will be done against each other. That is my assumption.
Well, Ambassador Tripathi and Robinder Sachdev ji, thank you very much. I'm going across to Abhishek Jha. Abhishek, what's the mood on ground? Xi Jinping said this engagement is the most watched and followed, and that's why we have to conduct ourselves in a manner that sets an example to the world. And I'm willing to be as candid as possible as I've always been.
Possibly, Anand, it's the kind of maturity that a leader, like leader one has probably most massive support back at home, can talk like, we know that Xi Jinping has just secured his third consecutive term. And this is the first meeting between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping. Joe Biden as a president of the United States, because earlier he had several rounds of meetings with Xi Jinping when he was vice president and the point person of Obama to deal with China. So probably that lighter mood or the personal chemistry could be very well at play because both these leaders know each other personally. They probably know how they conduct themselves and what would be in the mind of the other person. While USA is coming from a point of strategic difficulties at various stages where there has been a lot of pressure being built around the NATO in the aftermath of Russia-Ukraine crisis. So USA has been very much there. So clearly it wants to have a status quo or some sort of stability in other part of the world, especially in Taiwan or in the Pacific. That would be probably one of the strategic concern that Joe Biden would be having, while China, at the other hand, wants to establish itself as a power which has come of the ages in terms of strategic heads or the military process or the economic power that it has. You know that China has become kind of world's manufacturing hub. And in the last 2-3 hours, ever since the pandemic has hit, the world has witnessed the trouble once the supply chain disruption happened. So these are the issues that both the leaders will be talking to each other, how to continue the stability in the world order and probably maintain a rules-based order as well.
What time is Prime Minister